Alright folks, let's talk about another MCU movie. The third MCU movie to come out was Iron Man 2. The second Iron Man, which is a sequel to Iron Man 1. It stars Robert Downey Jr. as hold on for a sec. Who's he play again? Oh shit! Yeah, he plays Iron Man. Also, Tony Stark, because Tony Stark is Iron Man. You know what? Yeah, you all know this, right? I'm just gonna get now down to the nitty gritty. Iron Man 2. You know what I'm gonna say here, don't you? You can take a guess what I'm gonna say. It's not as good as Iron Man 1. I mean, everyone, almost everyone, is going to say that. Because most of the time, sequels, they're not as good as the original. And Iron Man 2, it gets a lot of flack. It's one of the weakest films out of the MCU. It's down there with The Incredible Hulk, for me. Because The Incredible Hulk, I've already done a review of that, so if you want to know more about that, then check out that review. But The Incredible Hulk, I've got quite a few issues with that film. And it's the same case with this film. Now, one thing that I will say in this film's favour is, once again, Robert Downey Jr. is just superb as Iron Man. He's probably the best ever casting that we've ever had for any superhero movie ever. I'm going to say that right now, because he's played Iron Man for all of these years. This is only his second film. He owns the character. He owned the character in the first film. So yeah, it's not a huge surprise. And you have all the other supporting characters coming back. Gwyneth Paltrow comes back as Pepper Potts. She provides a good supporting role. And she ends up becoming Iron Man's love interest towards the end of the film. Once again, I saw that coming, and this was 2010. I saw that coming when I was 15 years old. And I'll be honest with you, it's not the greatest love story ever. I mean, love stories in superhero movies, they're not really great. Let's be fair, they're not, are they? But that's Pepper Potts. We now have Don Cheadle, who plays War Machine, aka James Rhodes, because the actor from the previous movie was such an arsehole about payments or whatever, allegedly, that he didn't come back. So Don Cheadle came in to replace him, and he is the definitive War Machine roadie for the MCU, and he continues playing this character for basically all the rest of the movies that Iron Man appears in, and you know, whenever the character of Rhodey shows up. So he is good, and he and Iron Man, they have a little bit of a falling out in this film. It's really here in this film we see a little bit of a downfall for Iron Man. He has drinking problems. He has these house parties at his really nice snazzy house that he still has from the first film. And it's like a fall from grace in a way. He's become Iron Man now. He's in the public eye. Everyone knows who he is, because at the end of the first film he announced to the world that he was Iron Man in that really, really classic moment. Such a great way to end that film. And here he has his little moments, he has his downfall, and it's a little bit of a tribute to the comics, because in the comics he had a drinking problem as well. So I think that it was portrayed quite well in the film. I think it's the best thing about the film, really, just following the story of Tony Stark once again. However, I feel that the narrative of this film is a bit of a letdown. We have some new villains as well as some other supporting characters. First off, I'm going to talk about the supporting characters. We have Nick Fury, who actually isn't a new supporting character because he turned up at the end of Iron Man 1 in the post-credits scene, but a lot of people at the time might not have known about this because post-credits scenes, we all know now, they're a staple of these MCU movies. And at the end of the first movie, Nick Fury's talking about Iron Man becoming part of a thing called the Avengers Initiative, and this sets up the whole rest of the universe and all of the films that are yet to come. And Iron Man 2 is like what Batman versus Superman is to DC. But one thing I will say in Iron Man 2's favour is at least it does handle things quite a lot better, because Batman v Superman, I was so excited for that film. You know, I think I even said that in a previous review of mine. I was so excited for it, and Jesus Christ, fucking horrible film. So Iron Man 2, yeah, it's not a great film, but at least in that regard it did things better. Universe building a cinematic universe. And yeah, it could have done things way better, but when you look at Batman v Superman, you think, Jesus Christ, it's like a fucking Citizen Kane of movies. So anyway, going on a tangent, Nick Fury is in this film a lot more, played by Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, Samuel L. Jackson, do I really need to say anything more? We also have Natasha Romanoff making her first appearance in the MCU, and she is played by Scarlett Johansson. Really good. I really like her. We also have a couple of villains in this film. First off, we have Justin Hammer, played, and I've got to say, brilliantly by Sam Rockwell, and he's one of my favourite actors from the last 20 or so years. He is just superb in this part. He's really quite unlikable. He's like an equal to Tony Stark. Obviously Tony Stark is better as an inventor, but he's like a rival to him. He wants to make things, and he makes these machines which are like opposition to Iron Man, because Iron Man is becoming like a brand in this film. So there's a lot of, I don't know, politics in this film, business stuff. But yeah, I think he's quite a good foil for Tony Stark and Iron Man, and it's a real shame that we've never really seen him since, apart from the odd short film here and there. And the primary antagonist of this film is a Russian who goes by the name of Whiplash, and he has like these weird things which you whip and lash with. I don't know. But he's basically like an inventor as well, and he doesn't really like Tony Stark, and he's played by Mickey Rourke. Apparently Mickey Rourke wasn't really keen on this film. He didn't really have a great experience making this film. I mean, I think that he plays quite a good part. His Russian accent is alright in places. Sometimes it's quite funny. He's not the greatest villain in the world, I'll say that, but Mickey Rourke, he did the best he could do with it, so I'm completely fine with that, to be honest with you. He's certainly not the best villain that Iron Man has faced on his own. He's not as good as a villain as what Obadiah Stane was in the first Iron Man film. So that's just my opinion anyway. Some people out there will probably think, yes, Whiplash, yeah, best villain that's ever faced Iron Man. And he does come up against Iron Man. He is a great match for him, especially in the middle of the film when we're in that F1 racing part. And I've got to say, that suit assemble scene when he has the suit, I think it's the Mark IV. I want to say it's the Mark IV. It's the Mark IV suit when he gets out the suitcase. It's just so good. Really like that scene. And of course, the final battle towards the end of the film, where you got all the robots, all the drones, and then Tony Stark and Rhodey, they make up, they kiss and make up, and they end up getting back together and fighting together. Rhodes is now in the suit, which will later be known as War Machine, and it's just so great to see them both fighting off against the evil forces. I do think, though, it could have been done much better. I think maybe if this film was made, say, maybe 5 or 6 years later, or maybe not 5 or 6, maybe 2 or 3 years later, I would say that it would definitely have been handled better. So overall, I think that Iron Man 2, it's a little bit of a misstep for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but you got to remember, this is like very early on. Iron Man was a great beginning. The Incredible Hulk, for me, was a misstep, and this film was a misstep. I don't think that this film is as bad as The Incredible Hulk, because this film does feel more connected, having a lot of the characters turn up in this film, which turn up in later films, like Natasha Romanoff. She plays a bigger role later on. Nick Fury, he plays a huge role in terms of recruiting all of the rest of the Avengers in all the other films, and then eventually in the actual Avengers films. And then, you know, you have more character building with Tony Stark. You get a little bit more insight into his relationship with his father. And yeah, there's a little tease in the post-credit scene after this film is closed as to what the next movie is, and it's to do with Thor. And coincidentally, that makes sense because, yeah, the next film that came out after Iron Man 2 in the MCU was Thor, and that will be the next MCU movie that I review. What a coincidence. So before I go, I'm going to give this a score. I'm going to give this... Sounds cruel, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 because it's just one of those films. I do watch it now and again if it's on. It's just one of them. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Cheerio.